Now on KGW News.
You just feel like this will never end.
County leaders push back on the governor's COVID restrictions.
Please don't do our local businesses further harm.
Plus, a dangerous situation unfolds as protesters block drivers in Southeast Portland. And later, vets and their pets.
It's your best friend. It's your lifeline to a lot of veterans.
A local nonprofit and pet store are working to make sure both have the care they need. First at 11, use of the dangerous drug fentanyl is on the rise in the metro area, and dealers are targeting kids by peddling the pills on social media. Thank you for being with us tonight. I'm Laurel Porter. The Beaverton School District hosted a community conversation tonight after losing several of its students to fentanyl poisoning. Mike Benner has a closer look at the issue.
I think the most important thing tonight is to know that this danger is out there.
John and Jennifer Epstein will tell anyone who will listen the dangers of the drug fentanyl. Only 4 months ago, they lost their son Cal to an overdose. It's believed the recent Sunset High School grad OD'd on an oxy pill laced with fentanyl that he got through Snapchat.
Drug dealers have figured out a way to reach out to the kids, and they're doing it again and again and again, and these kids are seeing it.
The Epsteins shared their story during a virtual community conversation on the dangers of fentanyl hosted by the Beaverton School District, a district that's lost several students to fentanyl poisoning in the last year and a half. But don't be mistaken, fentanyl isn't just a problem in the Beaverton School District. It's a problem all over the Portland metro area. This month, the Clackamas County Interagency Task Force busted an 18-year-old for selling fentanyl pills, also on Snapchat. Since the start of 2021, more than 12,000 fentanyl pills have been taken off the streets of Clackamas County. That's an insane amount of pills, seeing as only one can kill somebody.
Anyone who gets pills from anywhere other than a pharmacy should assume that they are counterfeit and contain deadly amounts of fentanyl.
Tri-County Health Officer Dr. Jennifer Vines says the smallest amount of fentanyl, a man-made version of morphine, can be deadly. So far this year, the West Side Interagency Narcotics Team in Washington County has investigated 14 overdose deaths. 10 of those are linked to counterfeit drugs containing fentanyl.
In the same time frame, 2020, we had investigated 3. In 2019, in that same time frame, we had only investigated 1.
A clear sign that the fentanyl problem is getting worse. And perhaps nobody knows that better than John and Jennifer Epstein. They're hoping their story of the sudden loss of their son Cal can save lives.
This is really a new thing. It is dangerous. The controls out there do not exist.
Our thoughts are certainly with the Epstein family. Something that came out of this virtual community conversation was the importance of talking to your kids about the dangers of substance abuse. Those open lines of communication are so critical. As far as the signs of potential drug use, keep an eye out for unusual irritability, drastic changes in clothing style, and irregular eating or sleeping patterns, among other things. For more information, you can head to our website, KGW.com.
In the pandemic, local leaders in Oregon are pushing back against the return to extreme risk. Starting tomorrow, 15 counties, including Multnomah and Clackamas in the Portland area, will have a new round of COVID restrictions. That includes no indoor dining in restaurants. Those frustrated with the move say a key difference between this and previous lockdowns is that we have vaccine access now.
Governor Brown, we have gotten our vaccines. Honestly, the vulnerable of Deschutes County, Central Oregon, have gotten their vaccines on a very, very high percentage. It's time to go forward. We do not need to go backwards again. You just feel like this will never end.
We asked the governor's office why not allow restaurants to stay open but require vaccine proof for customers who want to dine indoors. A spokesperson said there are a number of privacy, equity, and implementation questions around that idea and that action is needed now. Multnomah County's chair, Deborah Kafori, did not criticize the governor. She said she's worried about both hospital capacity and businesses. She wants the governor and the legislature to get emergency money to businesses hurt by the shutdown fast. On the COVID vaccine front, OHSU says it's easier to make appointments on its website now compared to those early days of the vaccine rollout. While most new slots are still released at 9 a.m., they're not filling up immediately like before. And that means you don't have to log on exactly at 9 and start frantically hitting refresh to get a spot. I did that for a while. This is because vaccine options have expanded, so competition isn't as fierce. OHSU gives vaccines at the Portland Airport and Hillsborough Stadium. You can find more information on the OHSU COVID vaccine website. As older, more vulnerable people get vaccinated, there has been a shift in who's becoming infected. Children 10 and younger are now getting COVID at higher rates than people 70 and older. In fact, the American Academy of Pediatrics reports children make up 20% of all new cases. The big difference is kids can't get the COVID vaccine yet. The return to in-person learning is also playing a role. While the overwhelming majority of children who get COVID will survive, there's still a risk.
It's still a dangerous disease for kids. It still is transmitted by kids. We still see long COVID in kids. We see the multi-system organ failure problem in kids.
Until numbers are lower, experts warn against settings where kids are spending the night together or eating in a communal setting like an overnight camp. A sad update to a missing persons case you may have heard about. According to the Washington County Sheriff's Office, searchers found the body of Tom Tanis in Gales Creek around 3 o'clock this afternoon. Tanis had Alzheimer's and walked away from his care facility. They found his body about a mile away. The medical examiner does not suspect foul play in the death. A tense situation in southeast Portland earlier tonight. A small group of protesters took over the intersection at Southeast Grand and Morrison. That resulted in some confrontations with drivers. At one point, a car forced its way through the line of people with a protester on its hood. That person was knocked to the ground but was able to walk away. One person in the group also started hitting a driver's truck during an argument. This was billed on social media as what was supposed to be a peaceful sit-in organized by black activists. They're calling for the abolition of police. Portland is dealing with a massive homeless problem, as you probably know, and that's only gotten worse during the pandemic. But there is hope on the horizon for housing options. Dan Haggerty broke it down on the story tonight.
Portland has been under a housing emergency for more than 5 years now. Commissioners previously voted to extend it another year, and this week they approved some zoning changes that they hope will have a big impact. It's called the Shelter to Housing Continuing Project. We first told you about it last month. It changes city codes that regulate where homeless shelters can open up, creating a lot more potential space for them to do so. It also speeds up the permitting process, and they waive some zoning restrictions to help nonprofits and other agencies to open up these shelters. It also legalizes living in RVs and tiny homes on wheels, even in residential areas. Now, the state of Oregon considers those vehicles, so you're not legally allowed to live in them in the city, but Portland hasn't enforced that rule for years. The plan also allows group homes to be built in single-family residential areas so people can live together in larger groups and still share common spaces like kitchens and bathrooms. That wasn't up to code until now. Anytime the city makes any changes like this, we hear a lot of pushback. At first, the plan included allowing homeless camps in parks and open spaces, and a lot of people did not like that. So the city took that idea off the table. There was also some concern that East Portland would bear the brunt of these new shelters because of a map that was showing the area's potential for new sites. The city says these maps show the amount of vacant or underutilized land by neighborhood where shelters would be permitted, not where shelters would go. There is more available land in outer East Portland because it has more vacant land and larger parcels. When it comes to implementation, shelters will be focused where there is greatest need. One thing the plan does not do is actually provide any permanent housing. The city says it's meant to be the first step, though, to start this transition, and is working to build more affordable housing now.
When you don't get along with other people or you have problems, reintegrating into the system, your dog is always there for you. So I think that's very important to our veterans.
They're by our side in good times and when things get tough. And for many veterans, dogs are so much more than just pets. But right now, the cost of taking care of them has become even more of a hardship, especially for those living on the street. Catherine Cook shows us how one nonprofit is trying to help.
This is her.
For the last 5 years, Jake Lind and Jasmine have been inseparable.
She's the greatest. She's definitely the best dog I've ever had.
Jasmine is Jake's service dog.
Her and I really can't go very many places without each other, so.
Jake is an Army veteran.
She's pretty great.
For many vets, it's the kind of friendship that gives life and often saves lives, especially for vets experiencing homelessness.
But the veteran's going to take care of their dog. Sometimes their dogs eat better than they do.
Retired First Sergeant Tina Kennedy spent 22 years in the Army.
I'm going to put you over here with your cocoa, sweetheart.
5 years ago, she opened Fort Kennedy, a nonprofit day center for homeless vets in Southeast Portland. They offer showers, services, and pretty much anything else they need.
On the baby closet, paperback library, laundry, dog food, cat food.
Since the pandemic hit, Kennedy, who also benefits from a service dog,
if I start getting angry, she kind of calms me down,
says their stock of pet supplies has greatly diminished, a resource that means everything to vets like Jake.
It is such a blessing. It is so wonderful because I wouldn't be able to make ends meet unless I had some help like this.
Before getting help through Fort Kennedy, where he's now a volunteer,
this place it's changed my life.
Jake spent a short time living on the street, the kind of situation where pet care is even more critical.
Good boy.
Especially living in the car. You can't have an animal with fleas living in your vehicle. It's just too much. You guys think it's bad in your house. Imagine having that in your car.
And especially with the warmer weather, it's really important to get flea treatment for your pets.
Eileen Valadez works for Selwood Pet Supply. The business is stepping up to help meet that specific need. They're offering 20% off flea control products purchased as a donation to Fort Kennedy and will match each of those donations through the month of May.
It's for some people just it's survival to have pets with them. So yeah, definitely super important to help.
It's amazing to know that the community is actually supporting the veterans here.
The kind of partnership that makes friendships like this one.
I need her just as much as she needs me, for sure.
Just that much better. Catherine Cook, KGW News.